Her name is Renslayer? Like like Renslayer? Like that's her name? Renslayer. That is weird. Like, why is her name? She looks like a Kathy or like a Sandra or like fucking Renslayer. Like this whole time I've been calling her Kerry Washington because the girl looked like Kerry Washington. Her freaking name is Renslayer. That is so Loki, ladies and gentlemen, episode 4, The Heart of the TVA, which apparently is Renslayer, and it's your boy Icon with a Marvel review for you. And this is like out of everything that happened in the episode, me finally learning this girl's name blew my mind. Renslayer. So anyway, it doesn't even look like a Renslayer. Like when you hear the name Renslayer, you think of like Marissa from Street Fighter 6. But anyway, so in this particular episode, Renslayer and Mrs. Minutes, they're at the end of time where Kang, had died in the season finale of season 1. Miss Minutes ends up telling Renslayer that she was like, oh, I have a secret for you, but you ain't gonna like it. And I said this in the last review that I was like, Renslayer is either gonna be like his daughter or like his lover. And apparently she was his lover and like his right hand, because Miss Minutes even said that, girl, you commanded the army that took I don't even know what the hell whatever fight they're fighting, I don't even know what the fight is for. But anyway, she was the general of the army. And she was his right hand. And then after, he was just like, oh, you've made such tremendous progress with me in this war, and I look forward to ruling by your side. And then she was like, well, I'm going to go back to the TVA and get everybody ready for the final assault. He was like, yes, you do that. And as soon as he went back, he called Miss Minutes. He was like, yo, erase that chick's brain immediately. He's like, wipe her memory clean, and everybody in the TVA. So that's how we learned how all the members of the TVA like lost their memories and forgot who they were, because Renslayer, who used to be working with Kang, like, she got her memory erased along with everybody else. So now she's upset, and her and Miss Minutes, they're just like, okay, they're like, well, we don't need him, we could do better. And then, so the two of them like concoct this plan to where they're going to be in cahoots, and they're going to basically take over the TVA, because it's all about the TVA. Like, it's the heart of the TVA. It's all about taking control of the TVA and getting the power of the TVA. So now their plan was, because remember in a previous episode, that rogue gang of TVA agents, the ones that tried to like kill all those branches and prune all the branches, including good old Brad, who had escaped from that life of servitude, and he was an actor on a branch somewhere. He was locked up with them because they were all in cahoots together. And then while they were all locked up and together, that's when B-15 showed up. And then she told him, she was like, listen, she said that, I know you care about the TVA. She's like, I care about the TVA, so let's do what we have to do and save this place in case Renslayer or Kang or whoever tries to run an assault on it. So then after, she was like, think about it, and then I'll come back to get your final answer. So then B-15 leaves, and then that's when Renslayer and Miss Minutes show up, and they're just like, then that's when Renslayer was just like, oh, she was like, join my side, and we'll take on the TVA together. And then that's when the other lady, like the Irish lady, she was like, Renslayer, you're full of shit. She was like, she's like, it's just self-preservation. And she was just like, you have no heart, and like, you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of trash. And then that's when she was like, well, I thought you'd say that. She pushed the button, and then Miss Minutes used that machine that creates the squares to trap everybody except Brad in a square, and she crushed and killed all those TVA agents, which was very sad. So Brad, being the only one left, he teamed up with Renslayer and Miss Minutes, and now they're going to launch an all-out assault on the TVA. And even then, like, before, like, the Irish lady, she died, she looked at Brad, and she was like, was your life on the branch really that worth it? And it's like, he was like, hell yeah. So now, as I said, so they're in the TVA, and they're doing their various misdeeds. Meanwhile, young Kang, or AKA Timesley, he's in the TVA now. And he's surprised because he's just like, oh, all these wonders, that have been created through technology. And they're just like, yes, he's like, I created this all. And he's in awe of like his power. So they convince him, they're just like, we need your help, to help save the loom, which you also created. And then they bring him downstairs. He meets Ouroboros. And the funny thing about him meeting Ouroboros, aka Jackie Chan's son, is that Ouroboros said that everything he learned about the TVA he got from the teachings of Timesley. Timesley's whole thing was, he said, everything I learned about being an inventor, he's like, I learned from the teachings of a book from one Mr. Ouroboros. So it's funny because Ouroboros learned everything from him. He learned everything from Ouroboros. So they were like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's one of those infinity things where both events were always meant to happen to inspire the other. So then they were just like, with the loom now, they said that, there's too much radiation in the loom and the branches, there are too many branches, they can't get in. So like we have to expand the loom so all the branches can come in. So like the eggheads, they end up working on that genius plan. Mobius decided to go get pie. Sylvie was like, fuck your pie. She was like, there are worlds dying. Her and Loki had a conversation where Loki spilled the beans about him and Thor, because he was just like, back then he was like my brother. He was sent to Earth, for a few months, and when he came back, he was different, and I mocked him for his weakness, but in fact, it was passion. Like he was a good man that day, and he changed for the better. And like Loki's basically going down that same path. He's just like, like I'm here, to do good and to protect the people, because he kept saying that throughout the episode. He was like, oh, we have to protect the TVA like it's our job to save lives. And I'm like, when are you worried about saving lives? So Loki's basically making the Thor transition, and then Sylvie kind of like came around. She came on board because at first she was just like, oh, this is bollocks, but then she was just like, no, she was like, you're right. She was just like, we have to do what we can. But she was like, but you trust these eggheads? And he was like, with all my life, we have no choice. So now they put the machine together. B-15 finds out that Renslayer and killed everybody else, and then when Kang put the machine together, he put the whole contraption together, and then he went to go get himself a cup of hot cocoa. That's when Renslayer ran up on him. Brad ran up on him. They took him, brought him back to Miss Minutes, and brought him back to Renslayer. The loom is basically about to burst, so Sylvie and Loki, they're trying to make their way down to, I guess like the main control room, so they can use the machine that Kang had just created along with the other guys to help save the loom. While they're going downstairs, Sylvie goes into the elevator. She gets trapped in the elevator, and then after Sylvie gets trapped in the elevator, Loki was like, I'll take the stairs, and then like he goes downstairs, and then that's when we get the scene, I think it was like episode 2, where Loki was walking through a dark hallway. There was a phone ringing, and then he sees Sylvie coming out of an elevator, and then as soon as Sylvie sees him and he sees her, then Loki ends up like disappearing, and then he turned into like the particles he needed for them to suck him out of the loom like they did in the previous episode. And I was just like, that was kind of underwhelming, because I know there are people that are just like, oh my god, that's the scene that we saw in episode 2, which came full circle. He killed himself to turn himself into particles, and that's why she was in. That whole scene didn't do shit. Like, the way that they set it up to where like it had like the dramatic music, the phone call and everything, they set that up to actually be a dramatic scene, to be something cool. I thought that was gonna have like a serious payoff. That whole thing was trash. Like it was basically like nothing happened. She got trapped in the elevator. She opened the elevator door. Loki had to kill himself to turn himself into particles so he can be sucked back in, to existence to stop him from time jumping. And then when they picked up the phone, it was Ouroboros telling them to come downstairs. And I'm like, that was bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like that whole thing, that was so underwhelming. Like it really hurt. Like that whole scene, because like I said, they presented it as though it was going to be a bigger thing. So anyway, so now that foolishness is over, so they all go downstairs. They ended up rescuing Kang because Ouroboros, he was just like, oh, I have to reboot the system. He's like, I have to reboot the system because if we reboot the system, it'll stop Miss Timely. And then they said that it'll also get rid of the magic dampening technology. And then Sylvie and Loki was like, yo, get rid of that shit. So then like he rebooted the system. Miss Minutes, she disappeared. Loki and Sylvie, they both got their powers back. They ended up rescuing Kang, and he was just like, oh, how could I thank you? And then he was like, you could thank us by saving the timeline and the world. They go back to Central Command, and then they're just like, oh, somebody has to go out there and use the machine to suck in all the energy, so this way we can get all the branches in and everything. And then that's when Kang, he was like, I'll do it, because he was like, it's my machine, and I'll know how to make the adjustments on the fly. So he puts the machine on, and here, this is something that's actually important. So when Kang puts the costume on, he puts the suit on, the hazmat suit on, he takes the machine. When he goes out into the temporal loom, he immediately disintegrated and turned into dust. And when that happened, like when he immediately like disappeared, then that's when the radiation became overwhelming. Everybody got zapped by it. The episode ended with basically the TVA dying. And before I say thank you for tuning in, if you go back and look at the scene, there's a scene where Ouroboros and I believe Mobius or Kang, one of the two, they were arguing about something. And while they were arguing, the camera did a very not so subtle job of showing the other Asian guy, because there's two Asian guys. There's Ouroboros and there's the other Asian guy. The camera panned to the other Asian guy as he took the machine and quietly went downstairs into the space-time continuum radiation loom thing, and we don't know what he did. And it was so weird because the way the scene was set up and the way they just showed him just sneaking, creeping off into the background, I feel like he sabotaged it somehow, because when Kang went into the temporal loom, he just immediately disintegrated. I feel like that Asian guy set him up. Maybe he's working for Renslayer, and he kind of like did that to kill Kang and to set up Kang. That's my prediction. Like I said, thank you for tuning in, because that's the only thing that makes sense at this point, because the episode was kind of underwhelming, and a lot of points about the episode was very underwhelming as well. But the whole thing about that guy like sneakingly taking the machine and doing whatever it is he did with it, like I think that's gonna turn into something, because Lord knows nothing else turned into anything. And now apparently the entire TVA is destroyed, and life as we know it has come to an end, and we don't know what's gonna happen in episode 5. But share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below, and we will continue to talk about it. Check out my other videos, because I have Doom Patrol up on my channel. We're winding up towards the end of Doom Patrol. I think we have 3 or 4 episodes of Doom Patrol left. I will have my review for Justice League War World coming up on my channel as well, and we'll continue reviewing this Loki, because there's some other things coming up in the pipeline, well, not till next year, but like we'll see what happens with the writer strike and everything. And as I said, once stuff comes out, we'll review it and we'll keep it rolling. So that was it, guys. So check me out on social media. So like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We're almost at 500, and I'm like wowed by this, and I love and appreciate everybody who's helping me get to 500. It's something that I never really imagined could happen so quickly, and like I appreciate you all for contributing to the success of my channel. My Fashion Week reviews are still going strong, because we're almost at 40K. We might even be 40K by the time you see this. So I said, like I said, I'm overwhelmed. Like I'm overwhelmed by the love that I'm being shown by the community. And like I said, I'll just keep trying my best to pump out this content that I hope you all enjoy, and we'll just keep rolling on till ain't no more place to roll. So until next time, guys, for some more Loki action, take care. Keep the Time Bureau, not the Time Bureau, the TVA, keep them down in your heart. And until next time for episode 5, we're out this